Alright, so 2026 NATO summit was held in Turkey. It was one of the most politically sensitive NATO meetings in recent years, where deep fragmentations were visible in the alliance. We saw US President Donald Trump criticizing NATO allies, saying that Britain, France, Germany, Italy let us down in the Iran war by refusing to provide military backing. Trump was unhappy that despite the US pouring trillions in NATO over the years, NATO allies did not come when the US needed them in the Iran war. It is being said that in the summit it was visible how US is reshaping traditional alliances. Because on one hand, Trump was berating old allies, targeting sovereign territory of a NATO ally, and at the same time, he was seen siding with Turkey, a nation with which the US does not have great ties because of its closeness with Russia. Trump was seen siding with the same nation, Turkey, meanwhile reigniting diplomatic friction with NATO allies. He even revived the Greenland push, which comes from his view that the US must acquire Greenland from Denmark to counter increasing Russian and Chinese presence in the Arctic region. So Trump's transactional diplomacy was at full display during the summit, according to which he accords priority to current interests over long-standing alliances. It is this transactional diplomacy which is causing a shift in traditional alliances. For this very reason, Europe is trying to build up its military independence to reduce its reliance on the US. As I mentioned earlier, Trump was seen siding with Turkey, the nation hosting the 2026 NATO summit. This was the highlight of the summit. It came as a surprise to NATO allies and a shock to Israel when Trump was seen talking about giving Turkey major diplomatic and military concessions. The US showed willingness to restore strategic ties with Turkey. This was evident when the US talked about the possible sale of F-35 stealth fighter jets to Turkey. Trump was seen publicly praising Turkish President Erdogan and showing willingness to restore defense cooperation with Turkey. The US signaled lifting sanctions on Turkey and reconsider its decision of selling sensitive cutting-edge technology like F-35 to Turkey. This shows nothing but the growing importance of Turkey for the US. Reconsidering the decision to sell F-35 jets to Turkey shows that the US is now valuing Turkey as a strategic partner. The growing importance of Turkey for the US demonstrates the shifting balance of power inside NATO. Turkey has had difficult relations with NATO and the US because of its close ties with Russia, despite being a NATO member. Turkey chose to purchase S-400 air defense systems from Russia, after which the US was afraid of selling F-35 fighter jets to Turkey. To prevent the secrets of the F-35 jet from getting exposed, the US imposed sanctions under CAATSA and removed Turkey from the F-35 program. This was done because the US and other NATO allies questioned Turkey's reliability because of its close relations with Russia. I mean, you are a NATO member, which is meant to counter Russia, and you are purchasing Russian defense technology. Naturally, other NATO members will get alarmed. This resulted in Turkey having difficult relations with NATO and the US. But the thing is that Turkey's geography makes it indispensable for NATO. Turkey has a critical location which makes it valuable to counter Russia. Just look at the map. Turkey sits at the crossroads of Europe, Middle East, Black Sea and the Caucasus. This is a very strategic location. It allows Turkey to control the Bosphorus and Dardanelles, which is the only sea route between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean. So this strategic location makes Turkey indispensable for the US and other NATO members. Then you cannot discount the fact that Turkey has NATO's second largest military. So that makes Turkey extremely useful or even essential when it comes to cooperation for countering Russia. Turkey is also a major player in Middle East diplomacy. It likes to position itself as a mediator in regional conflicts. That adds to its importance. Now, given the fact that the US is too stretched, it has stretched its resources far beyond its capacity to manage. So it wants that NATO allies should contribute more to their own defense. A stronger Turkey is in line with this view of the US. By giving F-35 fighter jets to Turkey, enabling a stronger Turkish air force, deterrence can be improved and NATO's southeastern flank can be strengthened. That way the US can save itself from shouldering more regional security responsibilities. This explains why the US is siding with Turkey. Now, Israel is worried with this decision because till now Israel enjoyed qualitative military edge, as it was long-standing US policy of ensuring that Israel maintains superior military capabilities over its neighbors. Israel already has F-35 jets, and now US is considering giving F-35 fighter jets to Turkey. In a way, the US is putting up another powerful regional military by giving advanced aircrafts to Turkey. This is bound to shift the military balance in the region. Naturally, Israel won't be happy, as it has strained political relations with Turkey. Netanyahu wouldn't want Trump to proceed with the sale of F-35s to Turkey. Trump openly praising Israel's rival Turkey wouldn't sit well with Netanyahu. The recent friction between Israel and the US suggests that Israel's ability to shape US decisions might be declining. The US might be trying to signal that its strategic priorities can broaden beyond Israel's preference, that the US does not want any single partner to dictate its policy. It wants to balance its relationships. That is why it is improving its ties with Turkey, as the US thinks that Turkey might prove to be a useful partner for maintaining stability in the region and projecting influence. Israel wants the US to give priority to its security concerns. It wants the US to take Israeli objections seriously. There are major disagreements between the US and Israel over Lebanon. Netanyahu is also not happy with Trump's approach with Iran. And at this time, we are seeing that Turkey is emerging as a central player within NATO and Middle East for the US. That is how the US is trying to maintain leverage through multiple strategic partnerships. Turkey's importance is increasing in this approach.